The more experience and expertise you have, the harder it is to articulate your ideas clearly. Have you ever had a good idea that was really clear to you, but it was difficult to articulate in a way that was clear and easy to understand to other people? The reason why is because there are 3 stages of articulating knowledge and ideas. And once you understand these 3 stages, it'll help you to understand why good ideas are difficult to articulate and what you can do to be able to articulate them clearly every single time. The first stage of articulating ideas is stage number 1, inward intuitive knowing. Let's face it, you have a good idea. It's really clear to you, which means that it's inside of your head. You can interact with it. Maybe you can clearly visualize it. Maybe you can see how it's going to add value and you have a good feeling about it, and you can sense that productivity from that good idea, and you have an optimistic outcome from that. And all of these are different ways that you can interact with your good idea. The problem is it's inside your head. So while you can interact with it, other people can't, because it's virtual. The idea is virtual, meaning it's inside of your head. Now, it's clear to you. And the reason why it's clear to you is because you're good at what you do. And you can, as a result of that, you've been solving problems. You've been able to have a deep knowledge and expertise in your domain, in your field. And so you are good at what you do, and you're knowledgeable. Now, it's easy to know that being knowledgeable at something, there's a lot of advantages to being knowledgeable about it. But what most people don't see is that there's also a disadvantage to knowing something really well. And the disadvantage is the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge says that because you're so good at it, you have expertise in it, you have unconscious competence in it. Unconscious competence means you are good at what you do and you're knowledgeable about it, so it's second nature to you, which means it's intuitive. You intuitively know exactly what to do. You have an intuitive understanding of your knowledge, and in your idea, it's an intuitive idea. So inside of you, intuitively, you can interact with it, and intuitively, you kind of feel like this is a good idea. If only other people can adapt to my idea and adapt my idea, then this is going to be a positive outcome. Now, what's intuitive to you is not intuitive to someone else, because you're good at what you do. It's your knowledge and expertise. It's not intuitive to others. So if you want to communicate it to other people, communication is a conscious effort. So if your idea is only intuitive to you, this is an inward intuitive knowing. It's inwards. The problem is, to articulate an idea, you need to get that idea outwards. It's inward right now, it's intuitive right now, but you got to be able to be conscious of it. Instead of being unconsciously competent, you need to make it conscious and then be able to put that idea outwards so people can understand and adapt it. And that is why the first stage, this is the first stage, and that's why articulating ideas is very difficult, is because communications is a conscious effort, but your understanding of your idea is intuitive. And that's also why, if you've ever had this experience in the workplace, where you tried to share your idea, maybe people didn't understand it, but people didn't adopt it, and then some time passed, someone else shares the exact idea that you had, and everybody understands it, and everybody thinks it's a great idea. And you're here wondering, well, that's what I said. How come when I said it, nobody took it, but when he or she said it, and now it's all a great idea? And that's exactly why, because sometimes you can articulate an idea to your best, and it's an intuitive knowing of that idea. And from that place, it's possible to articulate it. And if it so happens in the room, someone else has the same intuitive understanding of your idea, then they can understand it as well. And if they can articulate it better than you can, then it becomes an idea that other people adapt. Right? I hope that you can see this. This should be an aha moment for you. It's possible. You may not be the only one that has an intuitive understanding. If someone else hears your explanation of it, there could be another person in the room with the same level of training, the same level of background, the same type of expertise, and as a result of that, within their knowledge and their domain, they could understand your idea on an intuitive basis. And if they were able to communicate better, I'm repeating myself, but there's a reason why. It's because this is such an important point. Most people don't understand this point. And if they're able to communicate the idea better than you can, then it becomes their idea, which was your idea to begin with, is the one that gets adopted. Right? So the first stage is so important. You can't skip stages. The first stage to articulating your idea is an inward intuitive understanding and knowledge. The second stage of articulating ideas, stage number 2, is an inward aligned communication. This stage means that you are first able to communicate your own idea to yourself. In other words, you put words to it. Now, an intuitive understanding of your idea is not the same thing as being able to communicate the idea to yourself. It's not the same thing. Because if you're still on stage 1, then you have an intuitive understanding. It doesn't mean that you can put words to it. The first thing is to be able to communicate it to yourself in an aligned manner, then you can communicate it to another person. And here's the litmus test. If you ever said to yourself, I have an idea, I know this is a good idea, but I just can't seem to put the words to it. If you ever said that to yourself, then chances are right now what you have is you're still in an intuitive understanding. You have not had inward aligned communications. So this is it. It's important to have inward aligned communication. That's the second step to be able to articulate your idea, articulate it clearly to another person. And so the process to getting to inward aligned communications, there's two parts of the process. One of them is critical thinking, and the second part is to be able to have synthesis of knowledge. Both combine. Critically think about your idea and synthesize knowledge using words and communication and alignment to be congruent with that idea, develop conviction around it. Those are the two most important processes to step into the second stage of inward aligned communication. Once you're able to critically think about your idea well and synthesize your knowledge well, then you can be able to put words to it and you can be aligned with what your idea is. And now you have a higher level of understanding your idea. Is no longer just an intuitive understanding of your idea. Now you have a conscious understanding of your idea. You're moving more to consciousness. And remember, communications is conscious. So if you're listening to this and it's starting to make sense to you, and you're starting to think, yeah, I have said that to myself before. I know my idea, but I just can't put a word to it. And you're curious and you're very serious about, I really do need to develop critical thinking. I really do want to synthesize my knowledge because I want to have a better impact on my industry. If you're thinking about this and you're nodding your head and you're saying, yes, that's what I want to create for myself, then I invite you to work with me. Below this, there is a link to book a call to speak with one of my trusted career advisors. And this is where we're going to talk about, is this the right fit? If you work with me, then every single week I'm going to train you on how do you develop that level of critical thinking? How do you synthesize your knowledge and package it into an idea and position it so that you can get the buy-in that you want for that idea? And how can you take these communication principles and apply them anywhere? Whether it be a presentation, whether or not you're sharing a project update, whether or not you're just talking and sharing ideas or being involved in an impromptu discussion. All of these principles apply no matter what form of communication that you are taking on at work. And if you're serious about developing your communication skills, then I invite you to check out that link below, and I look forward to working with you on the inside. The third stage of articulating your idea clearly is this. Stage number 3 is outward clear communications. The first two stages were inward, and now this one is outward, where other people can interact with your idea just as well as you can interact with your own idea. And other people can understand your idea just as much as you understand your idea. And other people can get in alignment with your idea just as much as you have gotten in alignment with your idea as well. So this is all outward. And by the way, when it comes to outwardly communicating your idea, the strategy in which you communicate your idea is way, way, way more important than the mechanics of your communications. So what do I mean by that? Communication strategy is how do you connect with another person? How do you position your idea? How do you get that buy-in? How do you remain fiscally responsible in sharing your idea? How do you share your idea thoroughly enough and communicate in terms of their values? Those are all examples of communication strategy. And what I teach in my coaching program is this 3-part framework, the golden triangle of communications. You have to know your audience. Secondly, you have to understand the context of your communications. And third is to be able to craft a message that matches both. Your message must match your audience and your context. That's the golden triangle. The other part is the mechanics of communication. A lot of people focus on the mechanics, and that is not important. It's definitely not as important. The mechanics of communications include things like, how do you pronounce your words? Do you pronounce your T's very sharply? What is your accent? What is the sound your voice makes? How loud do you need to talk? How fast do you need to talk? Do you need to take pauses at certain times? How many pauses should you be taking? How loud should you be speaking? All of these things are mechanics. Mechanics of communication is all just musculature. How you control the muscles of your throat, your lips, your tongue, right, all around in your pharynx. That is all, everything that produces mechanics is just musculature. But strategy in communication is way, way, way more important than that when it comes to outward communication. Focus on communication strategy. I talked about this concept on how to sell your ideas to higher ups, how to get buy-in by building a business case. I talked about this and I gave you my framework, and I'd like to share that with you again. So stay tuned, that video is coming right up next. I'll see you there.